welcome back to our book segment of the program. Great to welcome today one of the co-authors. Very interesting book, part of the Atlas Obscura series, and this one is called Gastro, Obscura, a food adventurer's guide, and it kind of takes you all around the world to find out about all different kinds of weird and wild foods. And we're joined today by one of the co-authors of the book, along with Dylan Thurse. Cecily Wong joined us by telephone today. And Cecily, good to talk with you. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good to have a chance to chat with you again. About a year ago, I had a chance to talk with Josh, who was one of the authors of the Atlas Obscura book. So I'm glad we have a chance to do another book. And this one really involves food. First of all, how did you get involved? I know you've been a writer with Atlas Obscura for a while. How did you get involved in this project?
Yeah, so I'm actually a novelist. I came to this project as a fiction writer, but they were looking. They launched this project back in 2017. They wanted to look at food a little differently, kind of more through a narrative lens, storytelling, discovering hidden histories and stuff like that. And so I got involved. I come from a restaurant family. My parents owned 3 restaurants while I was growing up. So I grew up in the kitchen. I've always loved food. Super enthusiastic eater, and so this was kind of an intersection of my 2 loves, storytelling and eating.
Yeah, I should have said, Cecily is the author of 2 novels, award-winning novels as well. You're based out in Portland, right? Portland, Oregon?
I'm currently in Portland, yes.
Now, did you have to go to many of these places in the book? Literally, it's every place pretty much in the world. How many places did they assign you to, or how did that whole work out, where you divided up into different parts, I guess, right?
Well, we kind of went across the globe all together as a team. I'm the primary writer, but we have a whole Gastro Obscura team back in the office, editors, writers, fellows. So they spent a good deal of time researching and chasing down these foods. And then probably about half of them came from the users of Atlas Obscura and Gastro Obscura, who live across the world, and they write to us, just literally every day saying, I had this amazing dish, I ate at this crazy restaurant, check it out. And then we would follow those hints, and a lot of the places that we haven't been able to go ourselves are from users who live there or are familiar with the place.
I know you have a note in the front of the book. Not everything should be eaten. Some of them, I wonder how anybody ate them. But I guess at a time, you got to find whatever food you can, right? But it is interesting. So some of it, shouldn't probably be eaten, but it's interesting to find out what people have chosen as foods. Other things, very edible, very interesting foods. So I guess you had to try some of them, right?
Yeah, no, I've tried quite a few. I was surprised as I was thumbing through it this last time. I've probably eaten at least half of the foods in the book.
Wow. So you're a brave woman.
No, I am. I have an iron stomach, and I eat everything. What
was kind of the impetus for? In other words, all these countries obviously have different where they're located, different types of foods obviously more available, I guess from the sea or whatever. Some not near water at all, and they really had to kind of find things to eat. Anything out there kind of surprise you? Hey, how did this become something that people would even want to attempt to eat?
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, lots of surprising things. As you said, lots of food and culinary ingenuity just comes from the need to feed yourself. And so lots of preservation techniques that make eating things that are not normally edible. There's a practice in Greenland called kiviak. And basically, they have really, really cold winters. And so once a year during ox season, ox are a small bird, they hunt a bunch of ox, and they take these small birds, wings, and feathers and everything, bones and all, and they put them into a seal skin, and they sew it up, and they place it under a bunch of rocks, and they let it ferment for months. And this is something they eat during the winter. And when it comes out at the end, they eat the whole bird, and it's fermented so that it can be safely eaten. And this gets them through the winter. So it's not, it's described as fermented food. It's very cheesy. It's kind of very pungent, but it's also it's ingenious. It's something that they figured out how to do so that they can eat all year.
Isn't there? I think you have something in the book as well. Kimchi, I think it's Korean or Asian anyway, where they bury, I guess it's cabbage or something underground. It's kind of the similar thing, right? Although it's not, animal, but it's they bury that in the ground for a while, don't they? And they eat that later on?
Yeah, so kimchi is, it's everywhere in Korean cooking. It's cabbage or other vegetables that it's also fermented. So you see fermentation everywhere. People are fermenting all sorts of things in order to preserve it. And kimchi is, it's spread with chili paste and usually dried shrimp, salted, and then they put it in these pots and they do often bury it. So because the underground temperature is a nice temperature for fermenting. Yeah. And it's kind of the same idea is that you do it when cabbage is in season, and then you get to eat cabbage through the winter.
I was particularly interested in the Canadian chapters because my mom was born in Canada, and both both sides were Newfoundland, and I'm kind of glad I didn't grow up there because they got some weird food.
Everyone does. This is what we're learning.
Did you get to go to Canada, or was that one of the stops you made?
Canada was not one of my stops. One of my colleagues got to go, and eat some cod tongues, and it's definitely on the list.
Interesting
I've been
food.
As a kid, but I haven't been back to really get good eating. Yep.
And for people, you don't want to say it's just everywhere else, but the U.S., you have a bunch of chapters on just going around the United States as well. Different parts of the country obviously have different types of food as well. So that must have been kind of fun. You got to stay home, but you got to find out what food is like, the Southeast or the Great Plains, or even out in Alaska and Hawaii, right?
Yeah, no, I was surprised. The U.S. actually took us the longest to put together. It was tricky. We wanted to include every single state, and it was actually difficult to pick that quintessential food or food place for each state, knowing that people are very, very protective and proud of their foods, and so we wanted to kind of do each state justice to the best of our ability.
Sure.
So we tried to talk to people in each state and argue and decide what was the best. But I absolutely learned. I think I learned more about our own country than I did about many of the traditions around the world.
I know we're short of time today. Just want to give the title once again, Gastro Obscura, a food adventurer's guide, one of the Atlas Obscura books. And we've been talking with Cecily Wong, wrote the book along with Dylan Thuris. And Cecily, give out the website if you would. People get more information about the book.
Sure. It is atlasobscura.com/Gastro.
Great. Cecily, pleasure talking to you. I hope you all do another project in this series, and we'd love to have you on then. But thanks for being with us today.
Thanks so much.
I'm Stan Brock. 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America isolated by poverty from the health care they need. Together, we can take dental, vision, and medical help to 1 million adults and their kids, right here at home in the United States of America.